I think we have a couple of friends here, so we're going to get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauretti. I am the managing director of the Anthem Awards. The Anthem Award is a brand new award platform brought to you by the Webby Awards, and we are here to honor the purpose and mission-driven work from people, companies, and organizations around the world. So today we're super excited to launch the Impact series, which will be our new Instagram Live content series, where we are going to be meeting with social good leaders around the world who will be talking to us about our 7 core causes. So today we're going to get started with our first guest. We're so grateful to have you here, Thomas Scovell, who is the head of strategy at Stanley Street and also the CMO of yesqueen.club. So thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate you being here. Welcome to the internet from New Zealand.
No, thank you so much. It's great to be here. And look, I absolutely love what you guys are doing at the Anthem Award. I've been a Webby judge for a number of years, and when I heard about the Anthem Awards, I was just super excited to hear that you guys were specifically looking at focusing and showcasing, purpose-led work. And obviously, one of those purposes that's really close to my heart is diversity. So great to be able to talk about that in the specific context of the cryptoverse, metaverse, and so forth today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being part of our judging academy. Really appreciate your work there. So let's get started. You've had a really long career working at the intersection of culture, brands, and technology. Can you just introduce yourself and share a little bit about your work with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I haven't had a long career. That's aging me, but it is true. I think No, it's good. I have depth of experience. I think my experience does go right back to sort of what we call, and we'll get onto this in a bit, but Web 1.0. So the original .com boom back in the late 90s. I was lucky enough to be an early internet user. I was lucky enough to be involved in startups back then. And I think it's, since then, digital has always been core to what I've done. But I've also had a long career in advertising and brand strategy. But the thing that I've always kept an eye on, and I think it's always put me in good stead, is understanding the role that technology plays, not just for the sake of technology and enabling experiences, but the role that technology has played in actually shaping culture. I think maybe people until fairly recently didn't quite understand both the good and the bad way that technology could influence culture, not just enable us to do the things that we want to do. I think obviously the recent issues with disinformation, and particularly on the Facebook platforms, has really brought home to people that, technology isn't neutral. The way technology is designed will have an effect on the way that people use it. And then if people are using it in a certain way, that's going to have wider ramifications on their culture. And I think, we're at a point now where we're at a generational leap from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. And I think that, we're at a point where we need to be mindful right now of making that step in the right way. That's what really excites me again about digital. I think it feels a lot like when I was a teenager. It's just the possibilities are there. It's not yet something that is everyone is using or understands, but it feels like we've been gifted with these technologies, and it's up to us to make great use of them. I think the first time around, as a young queer man in sort of the 90s, the internet was. I grew up in a small town. So the internet was a real refuge for me. I didn't know any other queer people in that town, and I think getting to meet and converse with them and grow to understand myself through my conversations and interactions online was really powerful and a real lifeline for me. And I think a lot of people will have had that experience of my generation. And I think that the internet has allowed all sorts of minorities and wide diversity of people to gather and discuss their experiences and share them. And we've seen that in really powerful ways recently. And I hope this next generation of the web is going to be positive in the same way. But I guess we do have watch outs, and I guess that's part of our mission at yesqueen.club.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I similarly have had a long career, and I keep thinking of this time that reminds me of, the beginnings of digital or even the beginnings of social. And so thinking about kind of where we've been, where we're going, kind of where we're at in the future of technology, what is really interesting, exciting, motivating for you about working in the crypto, metaverse, blockchain space of technology?
Absolutely. I think for me, it's a generational leap. And I think the term you could use to sum up all of those three things is Web 3.0. I think if you break it down, that original sort of dot-com boom, the 90s, is what we call Web 1.0. So at that time, you had to be a large company in order to come online, build a website. You would put some content online, you would charge people for it or put advertising around it, and you as the company, having created the content, would then monetize that content. Web 2.0 is sort of the mid-2000s, the beginning of sort of the social media era. People created platforms. They didn't create content themselves, but they enabled us, the regular folk, to post our content. But then what happened? Those same companies were the ones who monetize it. So people were creating, but companies were monetizing it. Web 3.0 completely, hopefully, we'll see, disrupts that. So we're moving from a place where, companies were profiting off people's content to a place now where Web 3.0, where people are creating and people are profiting. We're able to create direct connections between creators and their followers, their audiences, and enable them to monetize and actually, benefit directly. Creators can, it enables a diversity of creators, I hope, in the sense that there's not the gateways. There's not a publisher deciding this is the person who should be allowed to speak on our platform. There's not an editor deciding this is the story that should be written. It's absolutely up to the individuals to publish themselves, and they can immediately financially, and I think it's really important, benefit from their creativity. And so hopefully it becomes much more of a meritocracy, and hopefully a wider diversity of people are actually the ones creating things, not the same people. And I think that's what we want to see in this transition from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, that we have, not just a shift of the same people to new places, but actually new faces in these new places. And I think that would be my watch out with, Facebook, and here we are an Instagram platform, but, with their pivot from Facebook to Meta. I think what we see there is the same tech bros, Mark Zuckerberg, moving into the crypto meta space. And, given some of the issues he's had designing Web 2.0 platforms, I would be wary if him and the same people were the ones designing Web 3.0 platforms, because they're going to make the same mistakes. They're going to recognize the same needs they've always recognized, not truly understood the needs of the much wider population of the entire world that they should be benefiting from these technologies. And I'm just excited to see what we can do with these technologies and to really to unleash them into the hands of as many people as they could and should be.
Yeah, you started to talk about this a little bit. I mean, I think it's some of the promise of Web 1.0 and 2.0 was this democratization of media, which, as you point out, didn't exactly happen quite the way that some had intended or maybe had hoped. But thinking forward to the future, like any new technology, there's going to be some obvious potential for positive, negative outcomes, impacts. Sometimes these are unintended, sometimes they are intended. Are there any other watchouts for you, besides just seeing the usual cast of characters kind of moving to a new office space, or changing their names or changing their brands, things like that? Are there that you really think are things that we should be thinking through now from the inception?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's a quote I always like to use. It's even older than us. It's from Plato, which is, the maker of a technology is not necessarily best placed to say what good or harm it may bring. And I think we absolutely saw that with Web 2.0, is that, whilst platforms were envisioned and being used a certain way, how they actually got used was quite different. And often that was actually really beneficial. Certain platforms like Twitter, I don't think began in a way that they've ended up being used, but they've actually become much more successful and because of that. And that's an upside. It's great that once you unleash the technology in an open source, or at least an open kind of way, people can pick it up and run with it and use in ways that you never, as the creator, would have imagined. But at the same time, if you're designing it and unleashing it without thinking through, at least in some way, not just how it might be used, but who it might be used by, and enabling access to it, then I think that's really important. And I guess what we're seeing a lot with crypto and with NFTs and the metaverse in general is that the media covering it have a massive influence on people's understanding of it, because it's a new technology, right? And I think if they shape it in a certain way, if they report on certain aspects or certain people using it, then that is going to be people's understanding. And it's either going to appeal to the people who it appeals to or not. So there's actually, the media, I say, are again sort of the gateway, and they're creating sort of an exclusion because they're showcasing a certain view of the metaverse, which is led by, again, sort of the original creators of, Web 2.0, Web 1.0, which is, cisgendered white males who have certain interests. And that's why you have projects like crypto punks and, boards, a yacht club and things which, immediately see are very masculine. A very, and sort of if you're thinking to yourself, I want to find art that represents me, right now, if you Google NFTs and read a mainstream story about it, you're going to hear about those kind of things. And you're not going to think to yourself, oh, that's going to be for me. So I think that the watch out is as much in the technology, it being designed by the right people, as in the media covering it in terms of, showcasing what it can do and who it's for. And I think one of our missions at Yes Queen Club is not just about helping create art, and we'll talk a bit about that in a minute, a collection of NFTs that are right to represent the wider audience, in our case, the queer community, but also ensuring that, diverse voices can be the one talking about it and showcasing it and, and giving their views on what it might be used for. So those possibilities are opened up, and we get people coming to these platforms with different and better expectations.
Well, you said one of the, the big buzzwords of the year, I think, NFT. So could you start by, I think a lot of people have heard that, but don't even know what it is. So could you just take a second to share some basic information about what is an NFT,
sure.
How does that work, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, NFT, I could say that it stands for non-fungible token, but that would probably just make it more confusing. I would then have to explain that fungible means interchangeable. Things like Bitcoins are fungible because any Bitcoin is like any other Bitcoin, and it doesn't matter which one you have, it has the same value. Whereas an NFT is non-fungible, which means that, each one is unique. And you have one, it's a piece of art. You have another one, it's a different piece of art or a limited edition of that art. And, you can't just swap it for another one, but it still has some value. But to be honest, the easiest way to explain them is they're like top trump cards. They're like, collectible Pokemon cards, really. It's something that's unique. Often they are of a series. The typical NFT collection, which is sort of a subset of NFTs, has around 10,000 cards in it that anyone can buy and collect, right? Often they're of a certain theme. So crypto punks are a series of punk-like sort of 8-bit kind of heads. Each has different features. And when you buy one, originally, you didn't know what your one was going to look like. And it's like opening a pack of top trump cards and going, oh, that's my one, right? Once all those cards are available, their limited edition, people are then able to trade those cards with other people who want one, and they do so for money, for crypto, and the price of those kind of raises, and it becomes a market for them, just as there is for traditional trading cards. And it's basically the same thing. You can also have one-off pieces of art. We've got pieces of art that are being sold at Christie's these days for millions of dollars, right? But really, it's just a way of denoting that a particular digital asset, could be a video, could be a still, could be a song, is owned by you. And that the ownership by you is recorded on the blockchain, so that anyone who wants to check whether you own it can do so. Which is, a lot of people look at it and go, well, it's an image, I can see it. What's the difference between the person owning it, seeing it, and me seeing it? The reality is there is no difference other than that sense of ownership. But as we know, the sense of ownership is incredibly important. One of the innovations that Twitter are looking at doing is many people will use their NFT collectible as their user picture on Twitter or on Instagram. Currently, I'm using one of our Yes Queen Club for my little image here. Twitter are going to enable it so that only the people who own those particular NFTs can use them as their image, so that other people can't use it, essentially. So it creates a real sense of exclusivity.
Yeah. Right, that's awesome. I think the analogy of, a baseball card or a collectible card or a Pokemon card is a really good one, something people can kind of wrap their head around. It's like a little more tangible and they have some experience with. Tell us a little bit about, first, just tell us what Yes Queen Club is. How did you get
Yeah.
involved? What are you guys doing? What are you hoping to accomplish with this project?
Absolutely. So I guess to that point, I've been involved in sort of crypto and metaverse projects for some time, but I was looking around for an NFT that I could use as a user picture myself that represented me. But everything I could find was, an ape or a punk or a wizard or just all those things that, that the same crowd who design these things or design technology are into. And that's wonderful for them. Don't get me wrong. That's great. But it just wasn't an aesthetic or something I felt represented me. So it occurred to me that, there really should be a collection which represents the queer community, uses our symbols, our aesthetic, and enables us to sort of stand up and say, I am a queer person, or this is my aesthetic, and identify in the way that, in the real world, you're able to do that via your clothing, via your haircuts, via those other things. It's really important you are able to represent yourself. And your user picture is a key way of doing that in the metaverse or in an online world, right? I couldn't find one. It occurred to me at first, I should just do this. I Googled a bit more and I found just a little Notion page where our founder, Tiago, had posted the beginning of this project. He put a few pictures. I was like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. I want one of these. So I just said, look, I want one of these. But by the way, if you need some help, bringing this project to fruition and bringing it to more people, my background's in marketing. I would love to help out. A few conversations later, and here I am, speaking for the project, and we're getting ready to launch. It's really exciting. It's very much the beginning of the project is this NFT collection. So we will have 10,000 Yes Queen Club collectibles that people can buy and use as their profile pictures. But that's very much the beginning of creating a broader community online of queer people, supporting queer people and artists, and bringing more people on board to benefit from the technologies.
That's awesome. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, or you see in the news a lot, or you hear a lot of people talking about, especially in social good impact spaces, about the environmental impact of the blockchain. But I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about inclusivity in this space. So why is it so important for us to really address this, again, from this kind of inception of new technology? And are there other people kind of out there doing this that people should look out for and pay attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think firstly, I think we just need to address the reality of the problem. And I think if you have been involved in crypto projects for a while, if you sit in amongst those communities where they discuss various projects, it's very intimidating. As a queer person, I would say, I can't speak from it, but I imagine it would be quite intimidating as a woman too, because it's a very straight male places. The imagery they post and the imagery they post in terms of promoting the projects and talking about them, it veers towards pornographic. It's very misogynistic. It's very masculine and aggressive. It's very much the boiler room approach to investment. And all that kind of comes with that. And frankly, it's not pleasant. I've myself have received, because I use rainbow flag in my in my profile information. It denotes that I'm queer, and that's something I'm proud of. As a result, I've had people who don't like things I've said attacking me for being gay. Simply because they saw that in my profile. I've had seen things posted which are very homophobic, and just very alienating. And myself, if you considered, should I take this out of my profile? Am I going to lose respect in this community or access to this information because I'm standing up for a part of me? That's not something I want to do, and something I've not done. But chatting with Tiago and other people around the project, we'd all shared similar experiences, unfortunately. And what we did was we did a survey to quantify both the size of the problem and the reality of the problem. to queer people in crypto and in metaverse projects. We found, over 60% of people had an experience which they, found, unpleasant, whether that was directly being attacked for their sexuality or, having, witnessed and seen the kind of content they found alienating. And, upwards of 10-20% of people had actually, changed their profile as a result so they could fit in, or they'd left those communities entirely because they found they weren't for them. Obviously when we asked people, is it important for you, that a community is accepting? They all said yes. Did they feel like communities were? 5-6% of people said they'd actually experienced it, had a positive experience, which is really unfortunate, and it's exclusion. And the concern for us is that queer people and other minorities are being excluded from the opportunities that this technology affords. And that unfortunately is a systemic thing, and it's a thing that's gone on for decades when it comes to the queer community, which is exclusion from financial systems. It's always traditionally been harder to get a loan, just get access to capital to raise money for a business. That's always been the case. That is, I would say, in the financial world has improved markedly, but we're seeing a real step back. It's improved. It's not perfect. Far from it. But we look at the numbers of founders and so forth. We're seeing a real step back here, I think, unfortunately, and we want to make sure that that's not the case. Our statistics have shown that people are having these experiences, but we want to give people a way of proudly bearing the flag and feel like it's okay, and that there are queer people in crypto, there are queer people in metaverse projects, as there are, but we want those people to be comfortable to express that. This is the first bit of that. This is, I think, our artist expressed this. We feel like our project is providing kind of like a pride rally, a pride march through the crypto world, because that's what your user picture does. It says, I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm happy saying that in this space. I'm not making the space about my identity. I'm here for whatever this space is about, but you need to acknowledge this part of me, and you need to accept that. We want to make sure that more projects are doing that.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I think you see a lot of that in the cryptocurrency space, really talking about the inclusion of people who've been previously kind of left out of traditional financial opportunities. And so I think this is really, so amazing. Obviously, you guys are working on representation through NFTs in this space as well. I understand that you are more than just an NFT collection, but you're also a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. Could you talk a little bit about what that is, how that works, and what role you think that will play in the future of work?
Absolutely. That's one of those ones where the acronym maybe does a slight job of explaining what it is. Autonomous is the bit that's somewhat throwing out there, but a decentralized organization. So firstly, I mean, I guess that as a concept is not completely new, but for a start, in terms of the people behind the project, we're based in New Zealand. Myself, I'm Aotearoa. We're based in Brazil, the artist, and Miami, where the founder Tiago is. And so that we are the best people, we think, for this project, and we haven't let geography limit that, right? And I think that's always been, and that's one of the things that drew me to the internet. As I said, as a small town boy, being able to find people more of my ilk, of my interests, of my community online is what really attracted me to the internet. And I think that's even more so the case now. And there's real power in bringing together the best of the world, to create a project. A traditional organization is typically ruled by a management board. It has stakeholders, it has stock owners maybe, and those people are the ones making the decisions and guiding the business. A decentralized organization is simply one where the people who actually work in the business are given tokens to represent their participation and ownership of that business, and they use those tokens, called governance tokens, to decide on the future of that business. So in our case, we're going to be giving everyone, not just giving them the NFT, but they'll be able to use those in order to vote on the future of yesqueen.club and what we do. Part of that is we're going to be giving a large amount of the money that we raise to charities, and so we want our community to decide which are the right charities, which are the ones that we should be focusing on and giving to. And, we'll also be allowing them to decide, we want to create content, to enable more people to understand this space and how to benefit from it in the language and in a way that our community is comfortable of understanding and using it. So our organisation will be creating that content together. But the actual DAO essentially allows us to incentivise people to be part of that. We're not just asking a community to do things for free, which I think was sort of Web 2.0. You had, an influencer asking their followers to do this thing for free, but they're actually part of that. And actually, they are essentially immediately an owner of the organisation and on the same level as the rest of us, which I think is really exciting, this meritocratic nature of it, and bringing people together to do these things. It's interesting. I think just today, Elon Musk's brother announced Green DAO, which is basically going to be a philanthropic DAO, where he's doing that with money, and the other participants in that will be able to essentially, in a similar way, decide where that money is used and guide its future without intermediaries. And hopefully, I believe his goal is that more of that money goes directly to the good work. And there's a more democratic way of understanding what good work looks like,
and transparency through that process of funding and things like that.
Absolutely.
Well, as you had said, you are in New Zealand, so would love if there's any added global perspective that we're missing here. What do you really think that DAOs mean for the tech world? Has largely been centered not just even in North America, but largely in San Francisco. There have been some attempts. There's all the riffs on Silicon Valley for New York, Brooklyn, and other places, Raleigh, North Carolina, things like that. But really, it's in San Francisco. So, what do you think that this new approach and way of working together? What is the potential for that?
Absolutely. And so I've obviously been in London for the past 8 years, and we had Silicon Roundabouts there, which is the same kind of thing. I think the lack of imagination and naming kind of says it all. I think it's like everyone is looking back to the same people to inform them in their approach. Everyone is fairly happy with that. And, if you look around, I've visited many of those in my career, they all look very much the same. It's the same Brooklyn warehouse look. It's the same, tech bros kind of on razor scooters, kind of buzzing around, feeling very excited and very proud of themselves, what they're involved in. But, those big cities around the world are not the world. There are many countries which now have access to the internet that previously didn't. They might only have access on their phones, but they have access in some way, and they are creative. They're hungry. They want to bring what they do to the world, and I think that this is a way where it essentially levels that, and it really does become, as I said, sort of a real meritocracy. And people are looking for skill sets. One of the interesting things about, and it's a positive and a negative, about crypto projects in general, is that people tend to be anonymous. People tend to be their avatar, be their user picture, which is great in the sense that it allows you to form your identity yourself. But at the same time, it allows people to hide behind things and not take ownership of their words, which can lead to some of the aggressive and homophobic behaviour that we kind of see. But at the same time, it does mean that if you're in Auckland, New Zealand, you're on essentially a level playing field with someone who's got voting rights in Silicon Valley, and as long as you're bringing something unique to the project, you'll be welcomed, which will be positive. But we have to make sure, firstly, that those projects are going out to the right people, they're shaped in the right way, and that people feel comfortable and know that they will be welcomed when they come into them. And right now, we feel like the opportunity is there, but perhaps the reality is not necessarily matching up to that promise.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for all your work. Can you share just what is the website? How do people find you? What's your social channels? Stuff like that.
Yeah, so if you just go to yesqueen.club, you will find a beautiful website with some of our characters on them, and you can find out more about them. You can sign up to hear when they launch, and you can follow us in various social channels. We'll be launching the actual collection in the new year. We'll have some more news about that. But yeah, we're really excited. We're at this point, we're looking for partners and sort of people to come into the community who share the mission. We already have, a cohort of great people, and don't get me wrong, there are amazing queer artists in this space. The problem is that they're being drowned out by the media covering the same old people and the same old aesthetics. So we just want to bring to a surface some of the stuff that is there, supplement that, and make everyone feel really welcome and open and able to take advantage of the possibilities of this technology, which, as I say, I'm super excited about. I think we all should be, but let's just be mindful this time around that we design these products with everybody in mind. We invite everyone to use them in the right way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Perfect last words. Thank you, Thomas, so much for joining us. Congratulations on Yes Queen Club. I hope everyone will go check them out. Bye. When the launch
Thanks so much.
higher.
Cheers.
Please.